What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to Ben Builds. Thank you so much for joining us. This is episode number 5 on our 1/48 scale Eduard Albatros. First things first, we got to fix up the seam. So I'm hoping to get this fuselage all squared away today. I've got my super glue set aside here for some seam filler. I've got my jeweler files and my sandpaper. We're going to jump in, take care of this seam, and get everything nice and smooth to go ahead and make sure we know where to put that super glue. Let's go ahead and kick this into high gear, start some sanding. Alright, sanding is finished. Let's go ahead and replace a couple of raised details. Now there are 3 hatches that should be positioned here underneath the nose of the Albatros. We have some sheets of styrene to go ahead and replace those because they were there, but we sanded over them. I figured, you know what, just take them out because it's a lot easier than having to try to sand around them. So we're going to pop out 3 discs and then we're going to sand them down and install them. Now the first disc is cut out and we're ready to go ahead and sand it down a little bit. I want to make sure that it's not too thick and there's no lip around the edge of it to keep it from gluing down 100% to the fuselage. A couple of swipes though on this 250 grit sandpaper. You don't really need any more than that. It's going to really make sure this is nice and smooth and ready for application. Now we have a little bit of glue right here on the actual fuselage underside. 1 drop of our extra thin Tamiya cement. Take our disc, drop it right on down on top of that, tamp it down a little bit, and yeah, looks good. Let's go ahead and throw a little bit of glue around the edge of it too to make sure that really adheres down. And I think we are looking the part. Let's go ahead and make 2 additional discs just like that. Cue that time lapse and we're going to get this thing ready to go. Then we'll be able to go ahead and come back, fill up that seam with some super glue. All right, everybody, we are done with those hatches. They look perfect. I love them. Now we have to get on that seam though. So let's pull out that super glue. Now the super glue is going to act as a really tough, powerful filler. We're going to run it all along the bottom of the fuselage and we're going to let that dry. Then we're going to come on back and we're going to have to sand it. We're going to have to polish it out and we're going to have to rescribe some of the panel lines. Now, luckily for me, there's not a lot of panel lines. There's maybe 4 or 5 that we need to go ahead and rescribe. That's why I'm not too worried about it. We might want to put 1 more bead just to be on the safe side. Since this is super insecure and very thin super glue, we don't have to wait very long, but I'll probably give it about a day or so to make sure it fully cures so that we can come back and we can sand it out. We are back on the bench. I have let this dry for about a day and we are ready to start sanding. The super glue worked beautifully. It's nice and solid, very, very secure. So we're going to come in, we're going to sand it down and get this thing ready with our sandpaper, smooth it out. I really want this mirror-like finish to get this fuselage ready for paint next episode. So let's go ahead and wrap it up and get this thing done. All right, guys, we are looking beautiful. Now it's time for rescribing. One of the things that I'm not too adept at, but needs to be done because I lost some of my panel lines. We have our Dymo tape, and I have my pin vise here. We're just going to be sticking that tape down and just making those scribe lines over the areas that we need to go ahead and rescribe. It's not too difficult to do, but it is a bit time consuming, and you want to be careful not to scribe something you don't want scribed. All right, everybody, we are looking the part. I'm going to go ahead and run over our sandpaper one more time, make sure everything is nice and smooth. We're going to clear out some of those lines with my pin vise. We are ready to go ahead and apply a little bit of glue to each of these scribed lines. Now, the reason I'm going to do that is because the Tamiya glue softens edges and it kind of rounds things out. Plus, it's going to go ahead and make sure that everything is nice and smooth in there so it doesn't look too jagged, too rough. I think this is going to be a nice little addition to our scribing job. And that should be all we need to do to make sure that these are decent enough looking. Right on down the fuselage. Perfect. It's going to help round out those edges, going to help to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. Now, I've been watching a lot of videos online, and I ran across a few good ideas that I want to go ahead and try to implement into my build here. One of those was to make your own attachment points with bent and twisted wire. Now, what I have here is a very thin copper wire that I am making a little loop in, and I'm hoping that that's going to be perfect to go ahead and thread my rigging through and to give it a very stable and secure attachment point to the actual fuselage. So you can see here I've created one of them. It's a very tiny little loop with some braided metal that's all twisted together for the actual attachment point. It's very tiny though, very tiny. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to try it out. Now I went ahead and made 20. Hopefully that should be enough for most of the rigging we have to do. We're going to put those aside for right now, turn our attention back to the fuselage. So we're going to go ahead and call it here, guys. I need to do a little bit of sanding here to make sure everything is nice and smooth, but we are done for today. I think this fuselage is ready for paint. So next episode, I want to go ahead and prime the entire fuselage and see what we can do to start replicating a kind of wooden finish. I'm not sure how to do that yet. I've got a couple of ideas, so we're going to work through that, do a little bit of research. But next episode, we'll come on back for prime and for painting. It has been quite a journey so far, and I know I've got a lot more to go. So until the next episode, guys, stay strong, keep on building, and we will see you back here next week on Ben Builds, episode number 6 for the Albatros D.III.